So, hello, how are you doing? Whether somebody agrees with me or disagrees with me, or even if there's like a hint of troll to it, it could be a legit question, but doesn't seem to be as much. I still make it a point to treat persons with respect. And so, even if there's kind of a thing like, well, I'm going to disrespect everything that you're saying because I don't like this, I don't believe in it, and blah, 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 even if that's the case, I still respect you enough to say shalom, peace. I hope you're having a great day. Now, as far as the statement, you saying how was he protected if everyone he loved died and he literally lost everything? Well, not everyone, but yeah, as far as the children, you're absolutely correct. His children did pass away. He did lose everything, right? That made him the richest man. Not only is it described in the Bible as he was the richest man in Ur, he was the richest man in the East, and then it goes as far as to say pretty much he was the richest man on earth. He was perfect and upright in all his ways. And because of that, when the devil comes into a worship service with the Most High, the Satan says, hey, or I'm sorry, excuse me, the Most High says to the Satan, hey, what are you doing here? The Satan says, I've been walking around seeking whom I might devour, walking to and fro. That's what I do, trying to destroy lives. And so he says, well, why haven't you considered my servant Job? The Satan's response is basically, I have considered him, but I can't touch him because he is so protected. As much as you're saying he wasn't. But he hasn't been able to touch him. He says, matter of fact, you have a hedge. You have a hedge of protection around him. I cannot touch him. I cannot do anything to him because he is so perfect and upright. In other words, he follows your laws, your wills, and your way. Sorry, your laws, your will, and your way. Right? So he's so protected, I can't touch him. He says, however, if you give me an opportunity to touch him, I bet he'll curse you and he'll die. I bet you he will if you let me touch him. In other words, if you remove the protection from him, from his household, from his family, from his servants, right? Even from his wife, who's supposed to be his main squeeze. If you put his wife in a position where obviously she's not in it for him, but she's in it for the stuff that they have, allow me to touch the stuff. And I promise you, he'll curse you. Job then says, the Most High then says about Job, well, there's not so much that he's doing it, he's not faithful to me because of these things. But you know what? If you think it is the physical things, and you think it's just the things that I protect, and you think it's because he's rich, okay, you're allowed to touch those things, but you cannot touch him. He says, for he belongs to me. The Satan says, all right, and starts touching everything. And literally, it's even worse than what you probably think. When you read it, you'll discover that it actually is like, hey, somebody says your children have been attacked. And then while somebody's finishing the sentence up about that, about his children being attacked, somebody else is running up, hey, I came and I saw all your sheep and your cattle and this and that, and I'm the only one to survive. And as that person's finishing up, somebody else is coming and talking about the next thing and the next thing. And eventually what Job does is he goes down on his knees and he rips out his hair and he says, naked I came into this world and naked I shall leave. But he did not curse the Most High, right? So the thing was that the Satan said, hey, if you take away the protection, then he'll go ahead and curse you. But when he took away the protection, at least the protection over the things, Job still didn't curse him, right? Then here comes another worship service. Here comes the Satan coming back into heaven again, talking some trash, talking some smack or whatever. And the Most High is like, what you doing here? And really he says, you know what? Forget all that. You tried. I told you that if you took away the physical things, that his love for me is eternal. His love for me is not based off of these regular mundane things that you take so much joy in and you think that it's the whole thing of his life. Like at the end of the day, he knows that those things belong to me. He knows there's a heaven. He knows there's eternity. And so he also trusts me, and he knows that if I would allow him to become rich and protect him, I can also allow him to be broke and protect him too. Right? Because he hasn't touched him. So the Satan then says, skin for skin. He says, all right, you're right. You still protected him though. You wouldn't let me touch his skin. You wouldn't let me touch his life. You wouldn't let me touch the things around him, right? Skin for skin. Let me hit him direct. Let me hit him where it is personal. Because when it comes to your health, hey, you can lose riches, and persons will be losing riches, but they'll still be, I'm thankful I have my life. Persons will lose children and say, well, I don't know why I'm still here, but I'm still here. Let me touch him, not just make him sick. Let me get him to the point to where he's going to be so sick with boils and stuff like that, he's going to be breaking pottery apart and scraping himself with it. Let me have it to where his friends, when they show up, He's so unrecognizable that his friends are going to be like, I don't even know who you are, and they begin to weep. Let me have it to where his wife, who's not really in with him, sees that he gets sick. She was even hanging in there a little bit with losing the riches, but now there's that, she's like, you know what, I'm done with it. Curse the Most High and die. Job actually remarries because his wife is like, and by the way, don't blame her for it. Right? I don't blame her for seeing those things. I mean, I blame her for maybe not being in love with Job as much as the riches, but at the end of the day, her whole life, children, taking away a lot of stress, and she's watching somebody that maybe she genuinely loves go through something she gone to, right? Curse him and die. Just get rid of him. All this stuff. Then his boys, when they come, they talk trash about him. And then there's a young man who starts talking all this stuff. And then finally, when Job, for the first time out of all this stuff, starts talking bad, he still wouldn't curse the Most High. But when he finally starts questioning stuff and he finally says, you know what, maybe I'm not protected, that's when Yah finally opens his mouth and says, hey, I've been with you. Do you know about this? Do you know about creation? Do you know about all these things? Do you know why there's a bigger purpose to all these things? Of course you don't. But don't get it twisted. I've always been with you. And he shows his friends that he's always been with them. And he shows the young boy that came with him that he's always been with them. And then Job gets double for his trouble at the end for everything. But here's the real story, that while you're talking about he lost everything, he got double everything he had back. Now, you can't get double your children, so he doesn't get 20 children back. He gets 10 because you can't replace a life with a life. So he lost 10 children, ends up with 10 more children, right? He had, let's say he had 1,000 groups of this animal, he ends up with 2,000. Let's say he had 10,000 of this one, he ends up with 20,000. He was the richest man in the east of the world. Now he's double that he started off before. Right? He's going to see his children, at least so the faith goes. You might not have faith in this, but so the faith goes. And so the story goes that, hey, he believes in heaven. He knows there's a heaven. He knows his children will be taken care of because they were righteous as well. So he shall see them again. Right? And the Most High established him. And Job never said, I'm going to give in. When he started to, that's when the Most High finally said, okay, I'm not going to allow you to come out of pocket. Right? I'm not going to allow you to lose the one thing that you've had, which is your faith, and lose this thing that made you rich in the first place, which was my protection, right? So the main thing of it is to realize that even when, now this is somebody who coming from this experience, even when I've been homeless, and even when and I've had the 6-figure gig, right, with suit and tie, haircut, all that stuff, and now that I'm able to travel all over the world and be a blessing to persons of my diaspora and all that, I know that when I was homeless, I was probably more protected than ever. I know that when persons put me in prison unjustly for something I didn't do, praise Yah, it never went to trial, but I still had to wait for my right to a speedy trial in prison and stuff like that and going through different things. I never cursed the Most High. And I learned to listen to his voice, and I learned to hear him, and I learned to become a husband. So when I found a wife, I would already be pre-qualified to make sure that I took care of her. And I learned what it was to be a father, and I learned what it was to forgive, and I learned what it was to be like, man, what did I do to deserve this? And that there's evil persons who are out there who are waiting to do wickedness, and that the devil is really real. And at the same time, even though everybody wants to act like he doesn't exist, he's out here beating the brakes off persons. And while somebody like you, maybe, because there's a little hint of troll, but somebody like you might see somebody like me out there and still struggling and be like, oh, this and that or whatever. See, you don't believe that stupid blah, blah. Somebody like you might have passed me and not even said a thing to me. Not even seen somebody like me struggling and not even seen somebody maybe that couldn't make it to a shower that day and was like, oh, he smells. But in all that, I realized I was still protected because I saw a lot of persons go through a lot of things. I was never stabbed. I saw a lot of persons that were hungry. I was able to eat. I know a lot of persons who are military veterans that don't have it as well off as I do, and yet persons like you probably wouldn't even check to see if I'm a vet and say thank you for serving my country or something like that, right? Like, I saw a lot of different things in some of the most stressful of times. And so even if this ends up not being anything to you, if you end up still being like, well, you're wrong, blah, blah, that's stupid, dumb, whatever, for me, it's real. And this is one thing about the Bible that you must comprehend, and really about any scroll that goes with any culture, for real. It's not written to everybody. So those who actually live the culture comprehend things because we go through it. The traditions, the customs, the courtesies, the love, the honor, the respect, the law, the statutes. They're things that we live every day, just as Job did. And just as Job did, I'll never curse the Most High, and therefore I'll live eternally and never die. And even those things that were taken away from me, they're just physical things here or there. Persons that might be gone, I'll see them again because I love Yah as much as he loves you.